Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
Thank you, Dick Warren. And, oh man, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that intro.
Yay!
Those dulcet tones are the voice of Clarice Connolly. Clarice, tell the people who you are and why you're here.
Yeah, I'm a women's empowerment coach located in sunny San Diego, working with women worldwide and supporting them through their lives' transitions. And you can find me on empoweringwomen.coach.
That would be women, plural, .coach, singular. All right, and what are you doing here?
I am being your co-host.
Yeah.
Yes.
We call you a special in-studio guest co-host because that way you don't need extra pay. Also, we should say that you've been in practice as a coach for how long?
3 years in June.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Yeah, just coming right up. And me, 23 years or so, master certified coach in private practice, but also running a coach training organization and have participated with the ICF Global as well as my local chapter as the president and whatnot for a while. We tell you this just so we build credibility with you and you know that we didn't just fall off a truck and start a podcast. This here podcast has been going for, I want to say 16. Is it 16 years?
Sure, sounds great.
Yeah, thanks. Just play along. That's what I'm asking for. And today is a momentous day. It is not only the ultimate podcast from in May, but it is also the ultimate podcast from our home for all these years, WSRadio.com. We are delighted, honored, and privileged to have worked with Wade Tailor and his team. He's built quite an organization here. Originally Chris Murch, and then Wade took over and has built it in his own right and left and all around. It's an extraordinary organization. We're sad to be leaving and excited about what's next as we create Accomplishment Media. You can find us at accomplishmentmedia.com. But I believe for a time, all of our archives will be right here as well, WSRadio.com. So feel free to check it out here. And if you're looking to podcast, I can't recommend Wade and his team here highly enough. What else should we talk to the people about? Many things are happening.
There are so many things. Where do you even start?
It's starting to sound like this is getting a lot like Kelly and somebody, Kelly and Ryan or whatever it is now. We have to knock that up.
Okay.
In all seriousness, what's happening?
Well, Accomplishment Media is a really big thing that's happening. That's very exciting.
True. What's happening over there?
We're creating a one-stop shop, like go-to platform for very educated coaches doing some very powerful work, spreading some really great messages and wisdom and knowledge through like blogs and YouTube videos and
Publishing, all sorts of stuff. So Accomplishment Media meant to be the home of for people who are interested in unleashing the greatness of humans, of fully realizing their power, their purpose, and their passion in the world. Okay, what else is happening in the world? Roseanne canceled. Look at that. Somebody did something right for the right reason, even in the face of money. Even in the face of potentially losing money. That's pretty cool. What else do we need to talk about? We should talk about accomplishment coaching.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I didn't know where Roseanne came from, but that's okay.
I'm just thinking about the world.
Okay.
We just had the conversation among Masters Conference in New Orleans. I've got much to say about that conference. We spent a day with Julio Alaya of the Newfield Network of Pioneer and Ontological Coaching. We spent a day with Cheryl Richardson. Many of us know from her multiple appearances on Oprah and books, and I think every coach probably has a Cheryl Richardson book on their bookshelf somewhere. We also talked to David Houle. He's a futurist. We're going to have him on the program. He gets paid to know stuff about the future, and that's always fun. As well as Coach Meg. Remember we had Coach Meg here?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing, and she brought her research-based information about coaching to us. When we talked about the future, we talked about AI and how AI impacts coaching and can impact coaching. And he actually suggested that coaching was one of the two main industries, coaching and the law, of all things, that would be most subject to being taken over by AI, being replaced by essentially a robot.
Interesting. I can't imagine how that's actually possible, but okay.
You know who would say that? A robot.
Very good. Very good.
And also that.
Uh-huh.
All right, you can hear it. You can hear it.
It's happening.
How would you like to say? What would you like to talk about today? A robot could do this. All right. What else is happening?
Accomplishment coaching.
Accomplishment Coaching, longtime sponsor of this program, continuing sponsor of this program, the home of the world's finest coach training program. What do you want to say about it?
It's amazing. It's literally, if you're looking for the Ivy League of coach training programs, it's the most intensive, rigorous, in-person hours training. It's not just over the weekend, over a week. It's literally 1 year long. And you broach every type of topic from relationships to spirituality to money and how you do things everywhere in every aspect of your life. And the coolest part is that they actually offer an opportunity for you to kind of come in, sit like a fly on the wall, and observe the training programs as they are unfolding in every city that they're available. So it's like a Saturday morning, 10 a.m. till noon. You just come in and see if it's for you. And if it's not, no strings attached. They just like send you on your way.
Not a sales pitch, not a a presentation. You just get to watch behind the scenes of how coach training at the highest level is done. So if I were you, I would go immediately to accomplishmentcoaching.com, especially if you're near one of these 6 cities. Ready? San Diego, California, Seattle, Washington,
Victoria, British Columbia, Canada,
Chicago, Illinois,
and New York City,
and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Now, every time I say that, I say Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, which could really use some coaching. Our guest today for the entire hour is somebody who actually has coached and has worked and is integral in the halls of power in Washington, D.C. So we're going to find out from everything from digital strategy to what it's like to work in teams in Washington, D.C., where teamwork is not necessarily the predominant paradigm. Is that fair to say? Yeah. I'm very excited. Currently serving our country as a portfolio strategist for the Technology Transformation Service. She built the strategy chapter at 18F. She has deep design leadership experience across industries and business models. And Gail Swanson has a strategy-focused approach to design in a wide range of industries. She's been a mentor and a coach, and we're delighted to welcome to our microphones, I believe for the first time, Gail Swanson. Hello, Gail.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Wow, you're much more awake than I. I need to catch up. Look around outside. Where do you find yourself today?
So I am in the western suburbs of Chicago.
Very nice.
It's a good place to be from, yes. Where it's a balmy 80, I'm guessing.
It's been pretty hot the last couple days. It's been a really nice change.
Well, thank you for being with us today. What does it mean to have a strategy-focused approach to design?
Well, it means that I think a lot about context. When trying to solve a problem, thinking about not just, okay, we need to build a widget that accomplishes a particular thing, but what is, given the resources that we have, given the culture and maybe political climate that we have and supporters we have and budget, what is the best we can do with all those considerations?
Okay, I like that. I like the part about context. I feel like that gives us more clarity. Of course, I just spent some time with the ontological people. Let's talk for a moment about teamwork. My sense of the highest levels of government, the hallowed halls that you have roamed for a while, is that teamwork is not the dominant paradigm there. That the overall context is some version of subversion, or at least covering your behind. Is that accurate, or are you finding that teamwork is popping out all over?
I have found that teamwork is really critical. And actually, the things that make things work, that the engine that drives getting things done in government is really the relationships of people working together. And I mean, of course, there are people that are at odds with each other, or maybe working cross purposes, and also just not aware that somebody else is doing something similar to what you're trying to accomplish, but you just haven't crossed paths. But when you do cross paths, then everything gets amplified, and that's when you really start cooking with gas, as they say.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that you deal with, that a lot of people are dealing with, is the remoteness, the remote aspect of teamwork. In other words, I get it. A lot of people talking about John McCain right now, and a lot of retrospectives about his life. Sort of famous for building relationships first, and then using those relationships to build, sort of coalitions of maybe people across the aisle or people of different viewpoints coming together to get something done in government. What I'm aware of is that a lot of that is high touch, right? You got to be there, you got to walk into their office, you got to sit down and have a meeting or talk in the hallway. What are you using? What are some of the strategies that you found either effective or completely ineffective in working with teams that are much further flung, remote teams where many of the members are remote and can't just walk down the hall to interrupt somebody?
Well, it's really interesting. We think of government, federal government, as being primarily located in Washington, D.C., but actually only a fraction of the federal workforce is in that location. So by nature, the government work is distributed across the country, and even globally, honestly. So it really has been a good move to have people working together on virtual teams more. And I've found that really reaching out to somebody through email, or we use Slack a lot, or even just any sort of different agencies in government have their different chat vehicles. Just reaching out to somebody on a regular basis, or saying, "Hey, I've heard you're interested in working on this thing, and you know what? That's something I'm really curious about. Can we have a virtual coffee?" That stuff is amazing.
Do you take almond milk in your virtual coffee, or no?
I am pretty much strictly either black coffee or half and half.
Very good. All right, so you feel like we can do it. You've sort of got a rosy view for somebody who's worked in government for a while. Let's talk about some of your roles. In terms of leading teams, what are some of the roles you've had in government? How did you get sort of involved in government, and what are your roles there?
That's what I want to know.
Well, I was one of the part of that kind of tech movement that Obama started with the U.S. Digital Service, and also with 18F and a few other pockets of folks that were brought in from private industry to serve terms. So basically, short-term appointments. Not political appointments, just there's multiple ways to actually get a position within government, and so it's similar to the Presidential Innovation Fellows program, where you come in, you serve for a limited amount of time, you bring your expertise that you've built up being elsewhere, and you bring a different point of view into the government setting, and so. For me, I was looking for some work that had more meaning and mission to it. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, why don't you check out these 18F folks? I think they've got something interesting going on." And I should say a big thank you to my friend Russ Unger, who has been a great mentor to me and does a lot of mentoring for folks. So I threw my hat in the ring, and so I started off doing experience design. And shortly after that, I had an opportunity to start this strategy group. Which for me was really wonderful, to bring that thinking about context into the very technical work we were doing, and taking human-centered design, which is that's really my stock and trade for about the past 20 years, taking that and coupling it with just the way that my brain works, which is, okay, how do we get where we need to go? We know what the solution is. We know how to do good design work. We know how to build good tech. But how do we actually make it successful?
And we're talking about user experience, UX.
Yeah, I mean, that's the direction that I come from. But we were doing a diverse set of work in the strategy group. So it was a group of about 20 folks that really had been doing tech transformation consulting across government. So that's the model we had been working with. And we were having challenges with some of the stuff in government, with different groups are limited in the technology they can use because of security and compatibility and other things. And so just walking in and saying, okay, we're going to get you running, doing user research, and we're going to have you building MVPs and running sprints and being agile. That's a lot of change to throw at people when it could take 6 months to a year to get a piece of software that is critical for you to do a piece of that work.
I can hear people turning off their and changing out of this podcast all over the world. Let's go back a couple steps so that we can catch people up. So there's a lot of jargon here that people may not be familiar with. But in the technology world, Agile, first of all, if you're not familiar with Agile, would you like to describe what the Agile approach is or the Agile methods are?
Absolutely. So traditionally, the way that people had been approaching technology was to, before you started building anything, you would spend a lot of time making sure you knew, okay, here are all the requirements. Here are all the things precisely that this must do, how all of the pieces of information needed to be stored and what formats and when to ask them. And then you'd spend a lot of time designing what the screens would look like. And then you would hand that big pile of paper to a team of developers, and they would write the code. And then you'd launch it and find out that you had a lot of faulty assumptions. So early 2000s, some people acknowledged that it doesn't matter how good you are, how smart you are, you will never be able to really get right all of the assumptions that you need to know. You won't have all the information you need until you actually get something out there or you start building it. So that's where Agile came in. It's this idea that you start with chunks of things and short periods of time, and you allow for change. You allow for the things that you learn as you're creating a thing. You allow for those experiences, what you've learned, to come back and influence your next steps.
Okay.
And that's why it's called Agile, because you're letting yourself move and bob and weave as things come at you, and you understand the terrain better.
Yeah. And you also mentioned 18F. What is 18F for others that may not be familiar with it?
Sure. So 18F is a group within the General Services Administration, and they are so they're a technology consultancy of federal workers that do work across the federal government. So they get to really do a lot of work across government and lend their expertise widely, just like external consultants get to do, but it's from a different perspective, because being on the inside, you really get to feel how the machinery of government works, and you have to play by the same rules as the people that you're serving and you're working shoulder to shoulder with as a consultant.
That's so cool.
So many years ago, I'm old enough to remember that many years ago we were stunned to find out what the government had in terms of technology. And in other words, how low the level of technology was generalized through the federal government. You've watched it over the last several years. Has it improved? Should we be proud now of what the federal government's done with technology, or are we still a little bit behind where you think we need to go?
I think both of those are true. So there definitely are places where you find out that things are being done like with an Excel spreadsheet that's 12 years old, and you look at it, you're like, oh wow, gosh, I'm glad I'm here. Let's get this moving better. Let's build something better. But then there's also things like the Emerging Technology Office that is focused on helping areas use things like blockchain and look into AI and machine learning. And so those things, are really, I wouldn't say ahead of the curve, but, really up front.
In the game, yeah.
Yeah, so the government's humongous, and we have to do a ton of work. Because we can't pick who we serve, we can't pick target markets and solve some problems and not others. So it's you can't move fast and break things because you break people.
The government, right? Although they've been doing an interesting job lately.
Behave.
No, it's not a secret. It's in the news. Just go check, Facebook or something, wherever you get your news. All right, let's talk. First of all, let's establish: are you a Russian bot, or are you AI, or are you a person, Gail?
I'm a real live person.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I can prove that to you.
Right. That's exactly what a Russian bot would say. Yeah.
My interpretive dance doesn't work over read.
Nice. Interpretive dance, extra credit. Okay. So let's say that anybody is using the federal government websites, for example, for whatever they're doing. Let's say you want to get a pass to a national park, if there are any left. Let's say that you need to apply for some sort of a permit. You got to interact with the federal government. When you go to a website, this is something that you and the team, other folks at 18F, have actually worked on to make it as user-friendly, as productive, as effective, as easy to find things as possible. True?
True, yes.
Great. And I'm glad to know somebody's doing this because, yay, we need that stuff. And thank you for that work. Now, when you come to the humans, because we got the technology, we got the agile, we got that. When you come to the humans, what are you finding are some of the biggest issues in government? Is it I can't imagine that in our current political climate that it's like filled with happy people,
Rainbows and butterflies.
right, singing the Oompa Loompa song every day. What are you dealing with? What are some of the challenges you're running across on the human side?
Well, it's interesting. People who have made their careers in government, they've been there a long time. They are really used to change when it comes to like big P politics. They're used to things in different categories changing as different administrations come and go, as people in Congress come and go, and time changes. So that's been really amazing how like just steady and calm career government folks are in the midst of change, and most of them they're like, okay, the sky's not falling. We'll wait and see what actually the fallout is. But people, there is concern about different things, and there is change that at times is disappointing. And the other thing is, people are kind of survivalists as well. They're used to budgets being small. They're used to being very passionate about doing a really good job. I've found that largely that idea of government workers being complacent and just, trying to sit it out until retirement, that is really an unfortunate falsehood for the people that I've worked with.
That's awesome. And that sounds going to be our brief intermission. So we're going to come back more and learn more about coaching inside of the government with Gail Swanson. Thank you so much for listening and tuning into that. And join us for the next half of this, where we're going to dive into much more.
You're listening to The Coaching Show right here on WSRadio.com for our last time. When we come back, more with Gail Swanson. Stay with us.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Are you seeking to change your career to something that is both fulfilling and challenging? Do you want to help people reach their full potential and strive to achieve their dreams? Would you like to inspire those around you and help create a better world? If you're serious about a career change or just want to explore the craft of personal coaching, contact Accomplishment Coaching. With locations across the country in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Chicago, New York City, and San Diego, Accomplishment Coaching is the leading institution in personal coaching. Our staff carefully monitors the entire program, live during the training process, and have met the strict standards of ICF International to achieve accreditation. Through a focus on quality instruction rather than endless modules of training, Accomplishment Coaching will guide you from your very first step all the way to becoming one of the finest coaches in the world. Visit AccomplishmentCoaching.com to learn more. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach.
Christopher McAuliffe is your source for the latest in the world of personal coaching. Whether it be speaking with such luminaries as Deepak Chopra or getting the newest techniques and innovation, the Coaching Show is always on the cutting edge of what's happening now.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to The Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
That is the voice of Dick Warren, an extraordinary radio man in his own right, and we will miss his dulcet tones unless I can talk Wade into letting me have that. That was beautiful. This is my frequent listeners will know that we have been for 16 years here broadcasting out of WSRadio.com, a fine organization that has supported us greatly and mightily as we've done this podcast for so many years, each and every week, bringing you people out on the cutting edge of what it is to be a coach or to develop the human experience, and today to develop the user experience working with technology or interfacing with technology. Next week and from there on, we will be coming from our palatial mansion. I'm kidding. It's just a just a rented office, in at Accomplishment Media. And we'll tell you more about that on the interwebs.
Yay, look forward to it. It's really exciting.
That is the dulcet tone of Clarice Connolly. You can find her at empoweringwomen.coach. She's a coach in celebrating her 3rd anniversary as a coach. I am not celebrating my 23rd anniversary as a coach. And we're continuing our conversation today with Gail Swanson. Gail Swanson has a strategy-focused approach to design in a wide range of industries, most recently, currently, serving our country as a portfolio strategist for the Technology Transformation Service. Bet you didn't even know we had one. After building the strategy chapter at 18F. 18F, as we learned, is an Office of the General Services Administration dealing with technology and user experience of technology in the federal government. You can imagine the challenges, the models, the business models that she's seen and dealt with. She's also, of course, been a mentor and a coach along the way and helps people tailor approaches to the environments they work in and play with. To increase success. You can find her on the web at www.gail, G-A-I-L, Swanson, S-W-A-N-S-O-N.us. That's gailswanson.us. Her Twitter feed is, Twitter handle, is that what we call it?
Handle.
At practicallyux. That's at practically, P-R-A-C-T-I-C-A-L-L-Y, U-X for user experience. Gail.
Yes.
Oh, Gail.
I asked you, before the break, I asked you about challenges, and I expected you to talk about not what you did talk about, which is people's sort of adaptability in the federal government. They're used to a certain amount of change, and they've sort of inured themselves to it. They're survivors in many cases. Are you not seeing the levels of burnout in government that most people would expect, or are you seeing it and it's just sort of the cost of doing business there? I would imagine in our current political climate that would be exacerbated. Yes or no?
I do agree that's the number one thing that I see that leads to things like complacency or people kind of coasting or deciding to move on to something else. Is there are challenges. It is sometimes you have to do a lot of work just to get to do the work. And so, when passionate people who are really highly skilled, when they're trying to get these things done and they run into barrier after barrier, after a while, that takes its toll.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people, since they're working with small teams, small budgets, they probably don't have the support in place that would be able to help them through that in a nice way. A lot of people, they have to do a lot of independent work, and while there's oversight and reporting and things like that, there isn't somebody, there maybe isn't a team or a mentor that you can go to who knows what's going on, from a more personal point of view.
So there are studies that show that overachievers have a higher incidence of burnout. So can you describe to us your own experience with burnout and some things that you've learned through the experience, and how do you spot these warning signs in your teams and yourself?
Yeah, I'm still recovering, I'd say, from my own burnout. Over the length of my career, I think I've had a mid-level of burnout for many years, and just kept trying to push through it and kept trying to find better situations or better work or better environments, not realizing that what I needed to do was to take a bit different approach to how I was doing work and how I was really marrying that with my personal life.
It's like no matter where you go, there you are.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I learned is that really throttling the level of effort that you put into something appropriately is a thing you have to learn over time. And people who really are passionate and driven frequently will throw everything they are into something, even though the chances of success are really low. You may not have the support in place, or you may have constraints that really make it highly unlikely that you will be successful in getting the outcome you want. And so instead of trying to hit that outcome head on, you probably need to do some groundwork first, and find your champions and start with change. With design is change. You're always either making something new, or you're making something that exists different than it was before. And so you can't just I'm going to change your world, and I need to convince you that this is the right thing to do and we're all going to be happy. It doesn't work that way. And I'm sure you all know this, that you have to introduce an idea. You have to get someone to the point where they're open to, hey, maybe we can do this differently. Maybe there's something better. Before you go in with all of your energy into, hey, let's make this thing happen.
And this is sort of our one of our earlier conversations harkens back to this, because in person, you can sort of do that. You can drop hints. You can sort of make it part of your hallway chatter, just sort of like, oh yeah, have you thought any more about that, new idea for using toads in our lunch program or whatever it is, and then check back in and that sort of thing. And so, are you doing the same thing when you're working with people remotely, just sort of like dropping in ideas, or is there some way that Gail Swanson gets her ideas introduced?
Well, I like to forge those relationships before there's necessarily a need or a focused purpose. Those are really the most productive type of situations, when you over time build up folks that just are working in different aspects of the type of stuff that you want to make happen. And so you're working together, you're helping them get things done, you're offering them expertise in areas that they're not necessarily strong in, or different things like that. So you really become strong colleagues, and you're helping each other grow and do things. Getting that in place first before you want to, say, hey, I want to accomplish this with you. I need you to back my idea. Is going to be more productive for you. But even if there's somebody that you need to talk to, that you need to get on board with something, or some work you want to do with them, reaching out to them and saying, hey, I think you might be interested in this thing I've been thinking about. Yeah.
So just sort of building on relationship and then sort of slow rolling it is what I'm hearing. Okay. You're not trained as we who are professional coaches would consider coach training. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So your coaching is really sort of a form of mentorship and dealing with people. I can only imagine, as somebody who's not only working in the area of context and strategy, but also technology, that you run into a lot of frustrated folks.
Yeah.
Frustrated because they can't make the thing do it. I know that, when I scream like an unhinged person when my technology doesn't work. And so people are coming to you with technology issues and their own relationship issues, in terms of they've got some sort of a vision that they want to realize, or why can't we get these people the permits that they need by pushing this button here, and that sort of thing. What are some of your sort of experientially based strategies or approaches to dealing with frustrated humans?
The number one thing that I start with is listening. Listening. Of course, it's not a cliche. It really is something that helps someone open up and helps you understand what really is the root cause of the frustration sometimes, and what they need. And a lot of times, the source of the frustration that I've encountered is someone's not matching what they're trying to do with the environment that they're in. So let's say the goals of their boss and the organization that they're a part of, they haven't tried to mesh with that in a way that'll work, like two gears working together. They're not thinking of that. They're thinking of, how do I convince these people that this is what they should let me do? So talking to them about, asking them questions and getting them to think about, okay, what do you think this other person who is the barrier, or like you can't get a piece of software that you need, okay, why do we think you can't get that? Why are you getting a no? And kind of, playing the 5 whys game of, okay, so they're saying no. Why are they saying no? Okay, what's behind that reason? And especially in government, you don't have to dig too far for things to start making sense and for you to start seeing that the reasons were good. The execution, when it gets piled on top of each other years over years, gets a bit convoluted and things don't hit their mark. But when you start to understand the intent of all these layers of policy and stuff, and realize that they did make sense, then you build that empathy, and you can start finding opportunities to weave your way through to success and to getting that yes that you need.
I'm waiting for you to jump in because I think that you want to get a yes from your boss, who might or might not be me in this job.
I was just writing down her recipe in case anybody else was writing that down. I got it down for you. So I was kind of curious, what would you say are, in the field that you're working in, what would you say are the metrics? Like, is it profit that you're...
Well, yeah, clearly not, because it's the government, right? So, I mean, maybe, I don't know. That's a good point, right? Like numbers of national park permits might be one metric, right? Sorry, I'm way out ahead of you.
No, I like it. Go ahead. It's a teamwork. We're a great team.
All right. Yeah, but so there are what in some industries you might call key performance indicators, right? For what is that? Whoops.
Hold on. We're having a technical difficulty, Gail. You sound like a robot. See, look, she is a Russian
I knew
spy.
this was going to happen. I predicted this. All right, we're going to talk amongst ourselves for a moment until while our technical people. This is hilarious, right? Talking to a tech expert and then having something technical go wrong.
Whoops.
Our user that's adorable. Our user experience is not what we'd like it to be in this moment. So again, if you're looking to find out more about Gail and the work that she does, she's also one of the people on a female and non-binary speaker list.
So
which, if you're looking for women who are underrepresented, generally speaking, within UX, part of the wider technology sector generally, if you want to have Gail come and speak, go check her out by going to Gail, G-A-I-L, Swanson, SWANSON.US. You can also check out her Twitter feed at that's right, I said at practically, Practically UX, Practically UX. I think that we're deciding that she has disconnected and we need to reconnect. So what are your takeaways so far? Or did you have something else?
I have so many. Well, every time I think of Swanson, I think of Mary Swansonite from Dumb and Dumber.
Wow. It's funny.
know,
I think of
it's so
Swanson
good.
TV dinners because I'm much older. All right. But let's talk about Gail Swanson.
I really enjoy, she had, kind of like a recipe, but I just wrote it down by steps. I like the listening, right? Like as coaches, we have to listen. And in listening, we're actually listening for the root, or what's the source, or what's the unmet need that's present. And really a lot of the what's lacking, or where are people out of alignment? I've never heard of the 5 whys game. Do you know what the 5 whys game is? Yeah. What is that?
You just keep asking the why
5
because
times.
you get to the, because so often we stop at the first why,
Right.
Why? Oh, because we've always done it that way, and then you're done. And then, but if you keep going, the idea is that somewhere in those 5, you're going to get to the root or the issue, and you're going to be able to see the context in which this arose and create a new context.
Wow. So 5 whys game. I do it naturally. I just didn't know it was a game. That's
Why?
great.
Why do you do it?
Because I'm a very curious person.
My signaler is telling us, the great Wade Taylor is telling us that we've got Gail
You're
back. Gail, are you there?
Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, we were doing a little filler and reminding people how to get a hold of you and that you do speak, and you're one of the few women and non-binary people who are speakers in the UX community, and that they should get you immediately to come and speak. Do you remember what we were talking about before?
Yeah, key performance indicators.
Right.
How?
Yeah.
Fill us in.
So I was talking about something that gets thrown about a lot, which is cost avoidance. We don't talk about profit in government, but hey, if we can not spend money, that is a huge win. That's kind of almost the equivalent, really, to profit in government. So if we can do something that, it costs tremendously less on the technology portions of something, or hey, maybe you don't have your call center volume nearly as high. If we also, things like if we can reduce the number of in-person appointments that people have to make, like, let's say, for example, you have a question about your Social Security benefits.
Right.
If we can provide a way for you to do that other than setting up an appointment, going into an office and talking to somebody for something that's simple that you could do online, so that the folks that are already overwhelmed, serving in those offices, if they could focus on the difficult things, the unique situations, the complicated needs that people have, that is a huge win. So we look for ways to measure those things.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I love that. And, I was thinking one of the ways that we could save some money is by not having a ridiculous parade. Or building a wall. Well, I got a lot of ideas. All right. I met a woman. You'll appreciate this. Not you, Gail. Sorry. We're going to talk side talk here for a moment. I met a woman in the airport who is from Miami, and she says, actually, we want to build a wall in Miami to deal with the climate change. So we're just going to. Anyway, I thought it was brilliant.
Wow.
Moving on. Okay, so there are key performance indicators like cost avoidance. Are there other things, like do you take surveys of users' experience? Like how do you know if people are actually loving that modification or not, or do you just keep going with internal ideas?
Oh, we do a lot of user research, which includes things like the things that are out there already, sitting down with the people that are actually using this in their daily lives, sitting down and talking to them about, okay, what is your experience like? What is difficult with what you have, what we're giving you to work with, and so doing that kind of stuff, the new things that we create, new designs and technology will, before we put it out there in front of, launch it publicly, we will do usability testing, have people that fit the group that would likely be using it, and watch them use what we have so far and get their feedback and see where they trip up or the things that aren't maybe working as we intended them to. That's a huge piece of what we're doing with making technology and government more user-centered. And it's really been an amazing thing that both USDS, 18F, and other groups have started to propagate throughout government.
It's just astounding to me how many different things. This must be endlessly fascinating. I'm thinking about just, for example, the Smithsonian, with whom I know you've worked. And the Smithsonian deals with everything from narwhals, their current exhibits are like epidemiology, right? How do outbreaks and what's happening in public health and what could happen if there were a pandemic, to narwhals, to fossils, to butterfly collections, right? And then you've got the school kids that want to come, and you've got the private people that want to come, and like all the things there. And then and that's not to mention anything else, like getting a permit at national parks, which is the example I've been using. Is there a personal favorite project that you've worked on, something that you've loved that was just tickled you to work on?
Oh gosh.
And if it was a parade, my apologies. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding about the parade, people.
I'm completely keeping my politics
Yes,
off the air.
Mine would definitely have to be pandemics. It would be really great because I've watched a lot of The Walking Dead.
Stop. I'm sorry, Gail. What about you? What have you been particularly fascinated with or delighted by?
Well, and actually I think this particular project was really the crowning achievement of my career thus far. I worked on a research project focused on understanding what the experience is like for folks who are using assistive services in terms of people that live below the poverty line and are in challenging circumstances. What is it like for the people who qualify for things like, Social Security, disability benefits, for, food stamps, which now is called SNAP, Section 8 vouchers for housing, and things like that? What is it like when you're trying to get signed up for those and get those benefits and maintain that as long as you're qualified for it? Talking to people, we went around the country, went to Louisiana, went to New York, talked to people in Chicago and New Mexico, and out in California and Texas, come to think of it, and to hear what it's like. Mm-hmm. What do they have to do in order to make those appointments? What is the system like? We talk to people, who work within the system, who are serving those people, to understand what their experience is like doing that work.
It's so
and
great.
It was, I can't tell you how many times walking out of those interviews, it just was like, wow, I want to go hug everyone that I see.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this important work for our government, for our people. Thanks for reminding us that there are real people who depend on this service and that you're supporting every day. We've got about 30 seconds left in our time together today. Is there a parting thought or a parting shot you'd like to give 50,000 or so coaches today?
Well, I think what you just said about remembering that there are people behind all of these things is just so critical, especially when someone's facing challenges. Getting them to think about that person on the other side as a human, that really opens up doors for breaking down those difficulties.
Beautiful. The website is www.gailswanson, that's GailSwanson.us. And the site is lovely, and the woman is lovely also. Gail, thank you so much for being with us today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Clarice,
thank
you for being with us today, and thanks again to Wade Taylor and everybody here at WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk. We will talk to you again next week from our new digs at Accomplishment Media. I thank you, dear listener, for listening each and every week as we bring you people out on the cutting edge of coaching, human development, and what it is to support people in this crazy world of ours. It's the Coaching Show right here, as it has been for 16 years. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a